Live and direct, live and a date no jive.
Legalize it.
So how much can a koala bear? Koala bear, koala bear. Koala bear. Barry pulls a joint out of his pocket. Bill says, great, Barry, a reefer.
Hi, welcome back. It's another episode of the Koala Podcast. And I'm very, very pleased to be back in South Africa for my favourite speaker of the conference I just put on. She's laughing, but it's true. She was the best speaker by far in Cape Town. And Tia is the founder of the AfuRaka Institute. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And she does a number of other things and some new things that are happening that we're going to discuss. And we're going to basically talk about cannabis, law and community and all those important things that normally get missed out in the wash when people are talking about cannabis, because they're normally just talking about how many plants they can grow and how much money they can make. And that is at the bottom of my interest level. So it's fantastic to have you on the show, Tia. Thank you very much. And yes, you were the best speaker by far. I gather somebody told me you said you were very nervous before you spoke, but it was fantastic. And I wish there were more like you.
Thank you so much, Sean, for welcoming me to the Koala Podcast and for saying that I was the best. I think what I really liked about the International Cannabis Symposium was that some of the best were in the rooms there, sharing the knowledge and talking about the important things. Yes, mostly everybody was like, how many plants can I grow? How much can I make? But there were some interesting conversations that also happened there. And some of the things that we spoke about and that were touched upon in the symposium were things that motivated me to start this new organization that we will be launching soon.
Well, that's fantastic news to hear that. I've encouraged, we've encouraged you, and it's got the brain cells working, because that's exactly what I was looking to do, is just throw ideas for smart thinkers to then say, how does that apply to me? What can I do to help other people? So, job is not done, but that means next year, it'll be even bigger and better in terms of getting people to think like that, because independent thinkers are what we need in cannabis.
Yes, that's true. I think the seed was planted. The conversations that came up from the International Cannabis Symposium were very important conversations. And I think for me, hearing especially from Mr. Steve and Mitch about what they're doing in the US with the indigenous communities, then led me to kind of consolidate all of the research that I've been putting together when it comes to cannabis and indigenous knowledge systems and community development, and to come up with something that I now call the Legacy and Indigenous Cannabis Framework, which would then go into communities and basically serve indigenous and rural township communities and help organize them into a semblance of a working industry, so that we can actually show that to the government as something that we are working on as people on the ground, to try and make their job easier as well.
You're working with Linda, who used to work for people who don't know at Cheeba Education. I think he still does do work with Cheeba, and I'll give Cheeba a shout out as well, because I think they're one of the, if not the best, cannabis education organization on the planet. They get it, and it's good to see that people who are coming up with ideas and thinking are now putting them into practice on the ground. I'm really happy to hear you say in rural communities as well. I mean, I think in South Africa specifically, very important, the thing I learned is that urban communities need this as well, because people really need to be lifted out of poverty without too many rules, without endless rules and regulations that cannot be applied when you live in a certain way. I mean, when you're going out to communities, are you going out? So what's the plan? Do you take a governance plan with you, or do you go to the communities and engage with them first and work on some sort of governance plan that allows them to put stuff into action?
Yes, so I'm an anthropologist first, right? And I always believe that doing the ethnographic work of going into the communities and speaking to people and finding out their needs will serve them better than me coming with a plan and saying, this is what I want you guys to do and this is how it'll work. Making that kind of a blanket plan or blanket solution doesn't
It's not
really
going to work, is it?
serve every. Yes, it's not really going to work. Everybody's living experiences are different, and each community has its own different perspective, as well as a modus operandi, for lack of a better word to put it. So instead of just coming with the LICF and saying, okay, we've got the legacy and indigenous cannabis framework, our thing is we go into communities and say, okay, we are the TRCA and we would like to come in and do cannabis education and possibly organize your people who are already within the cannabis industry or who have an interest in getting into it, into groups that can actually form a working structure. So how our plan works is that we then have the 3-hub system in each community, right? So we'd have first our cultivation hub, we'd then have the processing hub, and then we'd have the wellness hub. All of these 3 hubs would basically function as organizing and aggregating tools to bring people into the hub to learn, firstly, how to grow, how to process, and harm reduction methods as well. And then getting them to maybe start their own businesses. So we also do new business development and enterprise support when it comes to people wanting to get into the cannabis industry. So that's usually how we work. Because I'm an ethnographer at heart, I usually just go in and I speak to people and try to find out what they do under the guise of, or with the premise of, we would like to educate your people who are interested in cannabis in how to get into the industry, as well as the laws and legalese that exist and whatever barriers that you might face, as well as challenges too.
So, and you're going to manage the translation back from community towards government and business, I presume, because that's, I mean, are you going to try and, as well as manage that, educate both ways, so those communities then over a longer period of time can learn that language that none of us love, but we've all got to do in order to get government to pay attention, because they have the ways that they do things. And as we know, doesn't matter anywhere in the world, you have to speak like government. Government finds it very difficult to learn to speak like you. Although, interestingly, I'm looking at the new Prime Minister in the UK. He may be trying to reverse that. So maybe there's going to be lessons to be learned over the next couple of years as democracy for this begins to exchange information, and government learns that they have to give a little bit of leeway as well.
Yes, I think for me, dialogue works both ways, right? So we are the middle people here. The people that were at the International Cannabis Symposium are neither government nor are they civilians when it comes to cannabis, right? These are experts and people that have the knowledge and that have the right ideas that could help government with where they're struggling, because from where we're looking, it seems like they're struggling a lot with how to frame cannabis and what laws to put in place and what kind of systems would work for the communities that we are serving. So when we are talking to people, we want to involve the government, right? Because we also want them to hear what we have to say, and also to hear what the communities are saying, and for the communities to also then hear what the government has to say. So everyone in this triangle needs to have a clear line of communication between each other. So we are trying to be the middleman between the communities on the ground and the government at the top, where we are coming back with feedback from the communities to say, this is what would serve the communities, and then going into the communities and saying, this is what the government has in mind for the cannabis industry. So it would work more as a flow of communication between all 3 parties involved.
So, I mean, here's a difficult question. In order to do this, you have to spend money. Taking money from business can mean you have to give up certain things. Taking money from government means you have to work within certain strictures, if not give up things. How are you managing that balance in terms of being able to fund yourself so you can put these initiatives into action?
I would love to say that I'm a very diplomatic person and I'm able to concede where concessions should be made. But I'm also a very level-headed person and I am very community-driven, right? So when it comes to speaking to government, I think more than anything else, or potential funders and investors into the TRCA, right? I would love for us to align our efforts, right? So I would go for people or companies and organizations that are aligned with our purpose and the thing that we're trying to do, which is basically socio-economic justice for the people on the ground with cannabis as the driving force. So we are trying to say we do need money, yes, to fund our operations and to ensure that we can start these hubs in these different communities. However, whoever is going to fund us should align at least with our core mandate and our core purpose, which is socioeconomic justice for township and rural communities. So I think it does present a bit of a conundrum when you look at it as this person wants to give and they want to gain something. But I think more than anything else, I'm very able to have conversations with people and find a compromise and a middle ground where everyone is at least happy with what they will get out of the project or whatever it is that we're doing at the moment.
And are you already speaking to people on the money side of things in order to, kickstart getting out into the country and actually doing the work?
Yes, so at the moment we are talking to a couple of people that I met at the symposium who did actually express an interest in funding stuff like this, right? In socioeconomic justice and leveling the playing field and ensuring that the industry is not monopolized. So some of the people that I'm speaking to, because we're still in early talks, we're getting along pretty well, and it seems that our ideas and our vision for the future of cannabis in South Africa aligns very nicely. So I'm not really having any issues yet. I might have some issues when it comes to the government because they always have their own ideas and stuff, and they're not willing to concede in a lot of things. However, at the moment, we're more focused on which organizations would be able to partner with us and become stakeholders as well. So we're looking at doing a stakeholder engagement in the next few weeks, inviting a couple of people to just chat with us about where we're trying to go and see where they can come in and help us so that we don't have to necessarily shoulder the cost of everything on our own, because this is, after all, something for the community and for the people.
And do you think, when you do have to talk to government in South Africa, provincial or national government, or a mixture of the both?
We'd have to do a mixture of the both, because what we're looking at with the TRCA is a national body that has provincial chapters as well as community chapters. So it would be great. What we're doing right now is we're going to be starting with some of the councillors and inviting people to what we will then call a leadership imbizo. So this would be traditional leaders, people in government, business leaders, and anybody who feels that they're a leader, an expert in their field. And then we would be having basically a dialogue with them about what we are trying to achieve and how they could assist us possibly in the future.
Yeah, you did work for a while with the Soweto Cannabis Association. What lessons did you learn from working with them and communities in Johannesburg about how to get things to work? And I presume not so much in rural, but I presume when you're working in an urban area, you have the added extra difficulties of maybe having to deal with people in other markets who might not want you stepping on their toes, a polite way of saying it.
Yes, I think working especially in Soweto, because Soweto is one of our biggest townships and one of our oldest as well, and has quite a vibrant youth. You know what I mean? We've got really, really active people that are being stifled by the lack of opportunity that exists within the township and rural communities. So the lessons that I really took from the Soweto Cannabis Association is that people really are interested and do need a way to get out of poverty, and they see cannabis as a way to do that, but they also don't understand how it works. So one of the key lessons that I learned from the Soweto Cannabis Association is that people just need to be organized. They need a face or a voice that can say to them, okay, this is what we need to do. This is how to do it. How many people actually want to do it? We are starting something right now. The AfuRaka Institute and the REM initiatives, they have a grow on Constitution Hill. And they've asked me to be their implementation partner when it comes to getting volunteers and interns to come onto the project. And the response was so overwhelming. We got about like almost 30 applicants, and we only had 20 available spaces. And I'm still getting people. I had to disable the form actually this morning because I'm still getting applications even now. So there is a real hunger for knowledge. There is a real thirst for opportunity in our communities. And the Soweto Cannabis Association taught me how to stand in front of people and, organize them into a semblance of a working group where they can actually make a difference within their own lives.
And with the model that you're trying to build, I don't think, as far as I'm aware, I don't think anybody's even thinking like this in any other country on the continent. Do you think it's a learning process, it's a 5-year process, probably minimum, but do you think you'll be creating a model that might encourage some of the more conservative governments in other parts of Africa to at least investigate how cannabis can help rural communities?
Yes. So the funniest part is that when I first wrote my research, I applied to give a presentation at the conference of the African Studies Association of Africa. And they accepted my proposal. They were like, yes, great, come through, do your workshop. It was supposed to be held in Cabo Verde, right? So that's a very conservative, traditionalist African nation. And it was going to be at the Universidad of Cabo Verde. But at the last possible minute, they rescinded my invitation because cannabis is such a contentious topic within the country's, government and communities. So that was actually what really motivated me to keep on keeping on, because then it was like, we don't want Africa to see from the world or to get people coming from outside to tell us.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say is, if you keep looking to Europe, you keep looking to North America, but the problem is, I think of African, except for South Africa, the African approach to cannabis is a bit like the African approach to the Anglican Church. Is everybody else is far more liberal, but if you're in Africa and you're a member of the Anglican Church, you have to be some sort of high church from the 12th century in order to be able to operate. It's very similar, and literally, and then in other countries, it's fine for those in power to control the purse strings and the profits to be made. And again, I'm treading carefully because I want to do future work in the rest of Africa. But there is that, I'm not going to use the C word, but there's very few nations, and there's a couple of great ones. I'm going to throw in Zambia because I think they're doing a really great job.
They are.
But, just north to the other place, obviously, is Zimbabwe, and they're sending themselves down the wrong road that will end in disaster, because people are thinking about money first and community second. And I would suggest that for the South African government, anything that they could do that improves the economy in Zimbabwe would benefit the South African government because of the issues that are happening in the country at the moment. So, blinding common sense is always ignored, though, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm hoping that the TRCA could actually be, or actually the Legacy and Indigenous Cannabis Framework could be a framework that could be applied throughout all of Africa, right? Because at the end of the day, we do need to start getting our governments to realize the vast potential that is within cannabis. And all African governments need to be aware and cognizant of the fact that this is the next gold rush. This is the next frontier that
and the last thing you want is the standard gold rush people coming in and doing and it all exits everywhere very quickly and goes back to US dollars, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, right now we're currently complaining about Anglo-American leaving South Africa and our communities destroyed. Our environment in shambles. They're not doing anything to remediate any of that, right? They're not doing anything to ensure that there is any sort of growth within those communities either. So the last thing that we want in South Africa or in Africa as a whole is a repeat of the extractive model. I think this is something that I repeat all the time. We have.
Look, I agree with you. Repeat it until you're, blue in the face. And I'm the same. I say it again and again and again. And of course, but the more you say it, you're going to upset some people. But it has to be said. Capital really has to be controlled. Otherwise, it's not going to end up benefiting people. And we've seen it with every single resource taken out of the ground and with agriculture generally. Let's try and start somewhere and generate something for people.
So I think that's the most important point that I always emphasize, despite all the people that get upset at me. I did do the disclaimer at the symposium that I'm not.
It means you're saying something important if people get upset. I think that's that. Yes, I mean, it's not nice, but sometimes it just has to be said, doesn't it?
Yes, some things really do need to be spoken about, because if we continue to ignore these issues and these very, very big problems that will come with big capital when the industry fully opens up, then we are going to go into another rabbit hole. And the funniest part about it in South Africa is that it's not even about race anymore. It's more of a class thing than race thing, where so many of white people or privileged people or people who have never been previously marginalized will also experience the very same marginalization that we are experiencing. Everybody is complaining about the price of living in Cape Town. It doesn't matter what race you are.
Yeah.
Everyone is complaining about the price of living in Cape Town because it's becoming gentrified and it's becoming a hotspot for international tourists as well as international people that want to immigrate into the country. So it's becoming so much more difficult for South Africans and natives and indigenous people to live in that community. And we don't want a repeat of that. That is going to spread across the whole country if we leave it unchecked. And the same thing will happen with cannabis if we allow cannabis to become just another commodity or resource that is extracted from our communities without any equitable beneficiation that's going the other way. So the one thing that I'm really, really big on is ensuring that we don't repeat the last 400 years of the cycle of extracting from Africa into the world. Instead, let Africa be a producer, let Africa be a front runner in the cannabis industry, because cannabis can actually change the socioeconomic realities of people everywhere in Africa. It has that vast potential. And I think that's the message we really need to emphasize wherever we go. If people are upset, I apologize in advance, but unfortunately,
I don't think you should apologize. I don't think you should apologize. One other part of the puzzle as we speak is academia. I think, we talk about government, we talk about business, but government pays attention to academia, and that's partly the reason that I work through universities, because then it seems, to use a phrase, more posh, and certain people pay attention to. Are you going to do, as part of what you're trying to do, try and engage academia across the board in South Africa to provide? They've got amazing skills and knowledge, and they can save you a lot of time in the type of organization that you are, and also you can then be feeding back data to institutions that know how to manage and push out data towards government.
Yes. So one of the partnerships that we are looking to make is with some of the institutions of higher learning in South Africa, possibly like UCT and TUT, because they do have good cannabis track record, because that will definitely make things easier for us when it comes to projects like the project on Constitution Hill, where we have interns already that are there, and we need PPE, we need certain things, and also maybe certain professors coming in to give a guest lecture. So it would be very important for us to partner up with academia to better also spread our reach, because when I was at the expo, I had a lot of agriculture students coming from the TUT to the Campus Expo to learn more about cannabis, so that's another thing that we can use in our advantage, organize those students within those contexts that are studying agriculture with maybe a specific interest in cannabis to come into our communities as well, and help also to do the grassroots work. I think if we partner up with teachers and students, we have more of a reach, because most of the students are coming from different places in South Africa. They can go back into their communities and seed this new thing called cannabis into the communities and help organize and be members of maybe our provincial chapters and our community chapters, and help spread the message and also do the work on the ground.
Amazing work, and so quick off the ground. If you say you got a lot of the ideas, only in late June, and we're only on the 3rd of August, that's pretty amazing and pretty quick work. So far more impressive than me. I went on holiday, and then I'm only getting my act together right now. I think what I'd love to speak to you again in a couple, maybe 6 or 8 weeks time, and see how you're getting on. And I would especially be interested in how you're going to choose certain communities in certain parts, geographical parts of South Africa, and what's going to lead you towards them as the first sort of testing grounds for trying to get the project up and running. So I'd be really interested to have that conversation with you, as it progresses, and we can follow it like a soap opera, not like a soap opera, but as a story, as a narrative. Well, I would imagine it's going to be a bit like a soap opera as you do it.
We're expecting quite a lot to be to unfold, especially because we're speaking to the national community now, not just communities within Johannesburg. But it is also going to be quite an exciting thing. Thank you so much. This is basically the culmination of years of research. Ever since legalization, I've been going into research what we can do and how we can make it more equitable and fair for everybody in our society to be able to gain something and live from the cannabis industry. So I think it's going to be an interesting ride and an interesting journey, especially trying to build something of this scale.
Now, well, I'd love to just talk to you regularly about it, and keep people informed and learn, learn the process as it happens. There's always highs and lows, but if other people hear you talking about it, hopefully it encourages them to talk directly to you and say, how do we do that wherever we are in the world? How can we do the same thing? We've got these communities. We need to work with people to improve lives and the way systems work, and especially important, communication to government. So I think and the more that these conversations come out of countries like South Africa, rather than endlessly having to hear them from North America, the happier I am.
Yes, I think we've got a lot of work to do on the ground, but this is something that is necessary. This is something that is very close to my heart, especially when it comes to community-centered development and education. I'm very big on those two things. And then when it comes to putting indigenous knowledge systems and adding that to the box of magic tricks that I have, I think with the team that I'm trying to build right now, with the partners and founding directors that I have on my side, we should be able to do something wonderful and something amazing. And what I really, really loved about the International Cannabis Symposium is the spirit of collaboration that it fostered within all of us. And there are so many people that I still need to get in touch with that I met there, who I feel would add a lot of nice extra weight to what I'm trying to do by just looking at it and giving me pointers and adding their extra eyes to it. So I think this is going to be quite exciting, and I'm definitely down to have a chat in maybe every 6 weeks just to measure the progress and to see how we're going and how we're doing.
Just a 10-minute chat would be fantastic. And just to say that, a couple of other things that we're doing at our end is knowledge is really important, and placing it within a knowledge base that's open source for everybody to access is really important. So
Yes.
As I'm developing that, I want to let people like yourself know about that, and hopefully information can feed back and forth. And the technology we have these days, once local communities, a couple of young kids who are smart can learn how to use AI tools and really solve the problems themselves through knowledge bases that they can access from anywhere, knowledge from anywhere in the world, rather than having to come through middlemen like you or I, because there's a lot of smart young kids out there who know their technology. They just need to be able to be given that opportunity so they can, and they'll be educating us sooner rather than later, I think.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things that I'm noticing as well with going back into working with the youth and youth development with these workshops and the internship programs that we are doing, is that most of these people are really just hungry for opportunity.
Yeah, it's all about opportunity.
They're willing to do anything and everything as long as you give them the right support, the right knowledge base. They're willing to solve the problems themselves. They're not waiting for government to come and give them a handout because they've seen that doesn't work, So I think I love working with young people like myself who are vibrant, who are active, who are willing to help change the realities of people across the board. And it's going to be an exciting journey with the more people, because I've been speaking to a lady called Simpiwe. She's in UKZN, and she's currently doing some cannabis research. She's doing an MBA, I think. And she's doing some research within the cannabis industry. And I was like, okay, that's somebody that I want to get on my board. I want her to be on my side because she's a researcher and she's active and she's willing and she's passionate to do the thing. And people just want opportunity. If we can be in the business of talking to business and government and making sure that the right opportunities land at the feet of our kids, then we will be great. I think that's my mission.
Okay, well, Tia, we're almost out of time, so that's a great way to finish. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you very, very soon. Thanks for being on the Koala Podcast.
Live and direct, live and I take no jive.
Legalize it. So how much can a koala bear? Koala bear, koala bear. Koala bear. Barry pulls a joint out of his pocket. Bill says, great, Barry, a reefer.